Hello everyone. The Polish Grandmaster Duda and Kryzstof has won the Fide World Cup 2021. Yes, in the finals of this World Cup, he won against Sergey Karjakin, the Russian Grandmaster, with a convincing play. Yes, the game which he played in the second game of this finals is truly amazing. We are going to see that game, but before we go further, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you are new here. So let's get started with the game. Duda and Kryzstof in this game was white. He started with d4. Just to let you know, the first game was drawn very quickly. Okay, Karjakin played knight to f6, then c4 is played, and now e6. What to do in this position? You are playing in the finals of the World Cup. You play very solid chess. Yes. So Duda plays knight to f3. Now d5. Well, we know this thing that if g3 is played, the game will be converted into Catalan opening. But today he was not in any mood to go for that thing. He plays knight c3. His opponent played c5, Tarash opening. He captures c into d5. Now the classical way to play the Tarash opening is to capture e into d5. Then you can play g3, then bishop e7, then bishop to g2, then knight c6, castles, and so on. But we know nowadays the trending move is c captures d4. After this, queen into d4 and then e into d5. The isolated queen pawn is there on the board, and okay, black needs to get some activity, otherwise the pawn on d5 will be a great weakness in the position. Okay, so here he plays bishop g5, straight away going for the spin. The knight is pinned here. The pawn on d5 is very weak. He plays bishop to e7. He plays e3. Of course, we need to get the bishop in the game. Just to let you know that the pawn on d5 is not actually a free pawn. If you go for bishop into f6, and queen into d5, if you play this thing, then what is the problem? You can pause the video, think about it, and let me know in the chat. Well, I hope that you have paused the video and you got the solution that the move is bishop into c3 check, and no matter what you do, the queen on d5 will be lost. So it's not a good idea, right? So that's why the pawn on d5 is not a free pawn. So he plays e3, simply getting the bishop out here. Castling is done. Now he puts more pressure on the d5 pawn with rook d1 move. Now he plays knight c6. The queen is being attacked. Queen goes to a4 square, bishop e6, and now he plays bishop b5. Of course, he's trying to put this thing, bishop into c6, b into c6, and queen captures on c6. Well, now he plays queen b6. He captures on f6, bishop captures on f6, and now finally he captures the pawn on d5. Well, we will not be getting the pawn for free. The thing is that after this capture on d5, the b2 pawn will be hanging. But by playing all these things, there is something good about his position. His pieces are very active. Because of these active pieces, I will tell you, he won the game very quickly after just, you can say, 16 more moves, right? So now he plays king e2. Any normal player in this position will go for castling, which is not a bad idea. But he anticipated that the game might be going into the end game, and if the game is going into the end game, then what you need? You need your king in the center of the board. So that's why here in this position he plays king to e2 square. Again, as we have discussed in the previous videos also, you can check out the previous video, which is Magnus Carlsen game against Fide. The color strategy I discussed in this game, the opponent is having the dark square bishop, and Duda is putting most of his pieces on the light square. This is called as the color strategy. You play on the opposite color of your opponent's pieces, and your opponent's bishop, especially the bishop, okay, he will not be able to attack on any of your pieces, and you will have lots of freedom. Okay, fair enough. Now bishop f6, he goes back in this situation. Rook comes in the game very quickly, very understandable move. Rook a c8. Of course, a6 was a possibility in this position, and then he might capture here, or the move which was played in the game, that is also possible, that is bishop to c4, just keeping the bishop on the board. One thing if you notice is like on the board, okay, on the board, I'll just show you, opposite color bishops are there, and one thumb rule of opposite color bishops is that if a side, any side, white or black side, is having the attack, then that side coupled with his other pieces like the major pieces, rook or the queen, will be having some great play in the position, and that side should be preferred. Okay, so in short, if you are having the opposite color bishops on the board, keep your major pieces on the board and just try to attack. Even if you lose 1 or 2 pawns, nothing really matters. All it matters is attack, because let's suppose in this position white gets a phenomenal attack on the white squares, black cannot really control anything on those squares because he has the dark square bishop on the board. So that's why the game continued. Rook a c8, bishop c4, not going for anything. Queen b4, okay, black is offering the queen exchange. He plays, okay, I'll exchange the queens, but on b3, not on b4 square, because if you capture on b4, then knight will capture on b4, and then d5 is being captured, plus the rook is capturing the bishop on c4. That's not a good news, right? So he plays queen b3, he captures queen into b3, bishop into b3, and he plays knight b8. Well, when I was looking at the game, I really did not like knight b8 move because it is going behind, but it has some idea. The idea is stopping rook to d5, rook to d7 in this position, and that's why it played. So see, you have very good control in the center of the board, means from white side your bishop is also kind of good, knight is also ready to go anywhere. What you should do, you should understand this thing that you need to attack. But if you are just going for the attack, you don't have any attacking points, you need to create them. That's why Duda in this position played g4. The possibility means what he is creating is kingside attack. To attack on the king side, he needs to expand it with pawns. So that's what he is doing. Opponent plays h6, means Karjakin played this thing. Now h4 comes on the board. After h4, he did not stop here. He goes for g6 and now g5. Completely dominating the bishop over there. H into g5, h into g5. Now maybe bishop g7 is one of the best moves in this position, but the ideas like knight h2 followed by knight g4 and going for this thing, and I won't be surprised if the rook comes over here on the h file and white gets some great play. I won't be surprised about that thing. That was clearly one of the possibilities in this position, but he plays bishop e7, not going for anything. He's saying like, okay, I'm going to put some pressure on g5 pawn till the end. And now he plays rook e5, attacking the bishop over here on e7 square, and now Karjakin plays knight c6. Okay, he's saying like, I'm going to capture your rook here. What are you going to do? And knight is also supporting the bishop on e7. But Duda says, okay, you are going to capture on e5, but I have a good move. He learned in his childhood maybe that rook on the 7th rank is the best place for the rook, and he goes for that thing. You will see why it is good. He plays rook to d7 without fearing knight into e5. Just like the way we looked at in Karjakin's game yesterday, the exchange sacrifice can be given in this position because of some tactical things. Knight into e5, now the bishop is being attacked. Let's suppose the bishop captures the pawn here, then knight will capture the f7. Now knight is going to capture on g5 and there will be discovered check, plus rook h7 is also made. For example, I'll just show you one sample example like b6, a very bad move, I know this thing, but just to let you know, knight to g5 check, king h8 will come, and now rook h7 will lead to checkmate because this bishop is controlling everything, knight is controlling everything. So this is the threat on the board. So that's why he did not capture on e5, because the piece is not a free piece. Another thing is also there is after this capture, after this knight into f5, even if rook into f5 is played, white will just capture rook into f7, sorry, then king h8 if you play, then rook into b7. This position is definitely better for white because he has a very strong bishop, plus the pawn on a7 is a weakness, g6 is also a weakness, and these pawns coupled with the king will be moving forward and black's king is actually cut off. This is the main advantage of having the rook on the 7th rank. First of all, it cuts down the opponent's king. Second thing is it attacks the pawns which are on the baseline, and your own king is free to roam around. This is the main advantage of having the rook on the 7th rank. Okay, so he plays bishop to d8 in this position, and now rook b5, going for the b7 pawn. He plays knight a5 supporting the pawn over here, and he plays bishop d5. This is a very interesting idea that whenever the knight and the bishop are there, the piece which is in the corner, if you put your bishop in this position, the knight is there in the corner. If you put bishop 2 squares away from the knight, then the knight will be dominated. You can see all these important squares are not covered. Okay, very important thing to always remember. He plays rook c7. Okay, this was the last tactical mistake in the game, because after this the game was just over after bishop into f7. The point is, if you capture rook into f7, then rook will just capture on d8, and okay, here this position is clearly better for white. The knight is also being captured on the next move, and with pawn up plus piece up position, white should be just winning. So of course he did not capture on f7. He played king to g7, and now rook into c7. Bishop captures on c7, and he plays bishop d5. The knight is not able to go anywhere. Maybe you can play b6 in this position and try to support the knight, but okay, here he decided to give up because knight will be coming on d4 square. The idea is to play knight e6. There will be a family fork and well, this is just too much bad position for black. So here he threw in the towel you can say, and Duda and Kryzstof became the World Cup champion, guys. This is truly amazing, because we saw that in the quarterfinals he won against Vidit Gujarati, our Indian star. Then he won against Magnus Carlsen, the current world chess champion, in the semi-finals, and in the finals he won against the previous, you can say, the world championship candidate Sergey Karjakin. Truly amazing. Now we will be looking at this thing, how he is going to play in candidates. We hope that he will play in candidates amazing chess, and he will be the World Cup world champion also someday. We will be looking at all those things. For latest content and some interesting videos, do subscribe to my channel, like this video, and we will be meeting very soon. Till that moment, take care, goodbye, and love you all.